The scream tore through Commander Ash Blackwood's helmet comm, making him flinch violently as he pressed his back against the cold Martian metal wall. "Vega, do you copy? Vega!" Static crackled in response, then a wet, gurgling sound that couldn't possibly have come from a human throat. "She's gone," whispered Dr. Naomi Chen, the mission specialist gripping Ash's arm with fingers that dug through his thermal suit. "Just like Harper, just like the others." Ash forced himself to breathe steadily as red emergency lights pulsed through the abandoned corridor of the Ares 9 colony. Whatever had taken the original crew was now hunting them. "Movement at your 3 o'clock, growled Dominic Reed, the security officer who hadn't smiled once since they'd landed on this damn planet. His pulse rifle hummed as it charged, the barrel tracking something Ash couldn't see. But then he did see it, a ripple in the air, like heat distortion but with impossible depth. The shadow twisted unnaturally, flowing across the ceiling against the direction of the light. "That's not possible," whispered Naomi. The shadow paused directly above them, condensing into a shape that resembled an elongated hand with too many fingers. Dominic fired 3 rapid bursts that passed through it harmlessly, the energy dissipating against the metal ceiling. "The artifact," Ash said, his mouth dry. "We need to get to the artifact and shut it down. It's our only chance." The shadow plunged toward them. Earth Orbital Command, 72 hours earlier. 23 crew members don't just vanish into thin air, especially not on Mars, General Havers said, her holographic image flickering slightly as it projected across the briefing table. "The automated systems are functioning perfectly. Environmental controls, power generation, communications, all operational, but there's no sign of any personnel." Ash studied the final transmission from Commander Gabriel Torres of Ares 9. The man's face appeared gaunt, his eyes wide and bloodshot, darting frantically towards something off-camera. "We found something. Coordinates 17.3 N, 89.2 W. You need to see. Wait, what's that sound? Christ, they're coming through." The transmission cut to static with a sound like tearing metal. "That was 6 days ago," continued Havers, her expression grim. 4 hours before their scheduled departure. The colony's systems show no depressurization events, no radiation leaks, no catastrophic failures of any kind. It's as if the crew stepped out for lunch and never came back. "Except no one steps out for lunch on Mars without an EVA suit," Dominic Reed said, his voice flat and professional. The ex-military security specialist had been Ash's first pick for this mission. "And the inventory system shows all EVA suits remain in their lockers, minus the 3 used for routine maintenance that day. So we have 20 people who disappeared without protective gear on a planet with a deadly atmosphere," Naomi summarized, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. As the team's xenobiologist, she'd spent 5 years studying extremophile organisms on Earth in preparation for the Mars colonies. "What are we supposed to do about it?" "Find out what happened," General Havers replied. "You 3 will take the Hyperion scout vessel, land at Ares 9, investigate the disappearance, and report back. This is strictly reconnaissance. Get in, gather information, get out." "What aren't you telling us, General?" Ash asked, sensing the hesitation in her voice. The hologram flickered as Havers sighed. "Our deep space monitoring network has detected anomalies, quantum fluctuations near Mars that began 3 days before the crew disappeared. Energy signatures that don't match anything in our database." "You think it's connected," Naomi said. 3 functioning colonies, mining operations, atmosphere processors showing results. Mars is humanity's foothold to the stars," Havers replied. "If something's gone wrong, we need to know before the entire colonization program gets shut down. You leave in 3 hours." As the hologram disappeared, Dominic turned to Ash. "You've been uncharacteristically quiet, Commander." Ash closed the file containing Torres's final transmission. "My brother was stationed at Ares 9, Chief Engineer Marcus Blackwood." Understanding dawned on Naomi's face. "Ash, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "No one did," Ash cut her off. "I requested this mission specifically. If something happened to Mark, I'm going to find out what." Mars orbit, 4 days later. "Initiating orbital scan," Dominic announced from the pilot's seat as the Hyperion decelerated into Martian orbit. The streamlined scout vessel was designed for rapid deployment, sacrificing comfort for speed and maneuverability. On the view screen, Ares 9 looked unsettlingly normal. Solar arrays deployed in their precise geometric pattern, the central habitat dome intact, support structures neatly arranged around the perimeter. All colony systems reading normal function, Naomi reported, eyes fixed on her console. Life support, power, communications, all green. Ash studied the topographic display, focusing on the coordinates from Torres's final message. Take us down at 17.3 N, 89.2 W. That's about 3 kilometers from the main colony. We should start at the colony, Dominic objected. Standard protocol. Those coordinates were important enough for Torres to send them as his final message, Ash interrupted. That's where we start. The landing was smooth, the Hyperion settling onto Martian soil with a gentle shudder. Through the viewport, Ash could see nothing but vast red desert, broken by rocky outcroppings and small impact craters. In the distance, the curve of Olympus Mons rose against the dusty pink sky. Full containment protocols, Ash ordered as they suited up. We don't know what we're dealing with. 20 minutes later, they stood on Martian soil. The thin atmosphere and reduced gravity, 38% of Earth's, made every movement feel slightly dreamlike despite their heavy EVA suits. Coordinates are just beyond that ridge, Dominic said, gesturing with his rifle. About 300 meters. They moved in formation across the rusty landscape, boots kicking up fine dust that settled almost immediately in the minimal atmosphere. The silence was oppressive. No wind, no sound beyond their breathing, and the occasional click of suit systems. I'm reading something, Naomi said as they crested the ridge. Energy signature unlike anything I've seen before. Below them lay a small depression in the Martian surface. In the center was a dark line, a fissure in the red soil running approximately 20 meters in length. That's not natural, Dominic said immediately. Too precise. Ash engaged his helmet's magnification system. The edges of the fissure were clean, as if cut by a laser. At the widest point, perhaps a meter across, something glinted within the darkness, metal or crystal catching the pallid sunlight. They descended carefully to the fissure. Up close, the unnatural nature of the formation was even more apparent. The walls were smooth, almost polished. It's a tunnel, Ash said, peering into the darkness. His helmet lights revealed a steep slope leading downward. I'm getting biological traces, Naomi reported, scanning the edge of the opening. Not human, not like anything in our database. Your call, Commander, Dominic said, one hand resting on his weapon. Ash thought of his brother. We check the colony first, then come back with proper equipment. They returned to the Hyperion and flew the short distance to Ares 9. The landing pad accepted their automated docking protocols, and the airlock cycled normally. Still reading Earth normal atmosphere inside, Naomi confirmed. Life support fully functional. Helmets stay on, Ash ordered. The airlock opened to a standard reception area with benches and equipment lockers. Everything looked perfectly normal, and that was the problem. No sign of panic, no indication of evacuation. They moved deeper into the colony, through the main corridor connecting the various modules. The mess hall showed signs of sudden abandonment, trays with half-eaten meals, cups with residue from evaporated liquids, chairs pushed back at odd angles as if everyone had stood up simultaneously. No signs of struggle, Dominic noted, weapon at the ready. No blood, no damage. Commander, you need to see this, Naomi called from across the room. She stood before a wall-mounted display that still glowed with power. Ash and Dominic joined her. On the screen was a paused video file, time-stamped 6 days ago, the day the crew disappeared. Play it, Ash said. The video began with a mundane exterior security feed of the colony. For nearly 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then at the edge of the frame, something moved. A shadow detached itself from one of the exterior structures and flowed across the ground with purposeful movement. Another followed, then another, gathering at the main airlock, the same one they had just used to enter. The video dissolved into static. What the hell were those? Dominic asked, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. We need to check the command center, Ash decided. Find their logs. The command center was located at the colony's heart, a circular room filled with workstations and communications equipment. Here, too, everything looked normal, except for the complete absence of people. Dominic went straight to the main security console. Last log entry was 6 days ago, 14:27 hours local time. Commander Torres ordered a lockdown of all exterior hatches. No explanation. That's an hour before their final message to Earth, Naomi noted. Here's a geological survey report filed that morning, Dominic continued. A team detected unusual seismic activity centered around the exact coordinates Torres sent in his final message. Ash leaned over his shoulder. What kind of activity? Rhythmic pulses, too regular to be natural. Dr. Harper, their geologist, recommended sending a team to investigate. Which they did, Ash concluded, and they found something in that fissure. I've found Harper's personal log, Naomi called out, her voice suddenly tight. Listen to this. The symbols match. They match ancient Earth writings, identical patterns to the Nazca lines, Göbekli Tepe engravings, even Linear A. How is this possible? We're on Mars, yet these markings connect to ancient human civilizations, unless the same intelligence that influenced early humans also came here, or started here. Whatever's down there, it's waking up. The vibrations are getting stronger, and the shadows, I keep seeing them at the edges of my vision. No one believes me, but they're real. Check medical logs, Ash ordered, a chill running through him despite his suit's climate control. Any reports of hallucinations? Dominic pulled up the medical database. Nothing official. There's a private note from Dr. Vega to Torres about 4 crew members reporting movement where there shouldn't be any, and shadows that don't correspond to objects. She recommended psychological evaluation. A metallic scratching sound came from the corridor outside, like nails dragging across steel. What was that? Naomi whispered. Thermal expansion, Dominic suggested, but his hand moved to his weapon. We need equipment to explore that fissure, Ash decided. Whatever happened started there. They gathered what they needed: climbing equipment, additional lighting, sample containers, and weapons. The colony's armory logs showed 12 pulse rifles signed out hours before communications went dark. They were expecting trouble, Dominic observed. As they prepared to leave, Ash noticed a small recording device partially hidden beneath a console, its indicator light still blinking. He retrieved it and played the recording. Commander Torres's voice emerged, strained and hushed. If anyone finds this, the artifact is active. We tried to shut it down, but it's too late. They're coming through now. The symbols are some kind of key, a mathematical sequence that creates a bridge between here and somewhere else. They were waiting on the other side, maybe for centuries, millions of years. Stay away from the fissure. Warn Earth. This can't... The recording cut to static, followed by a sound that made Ash's skin crawl. A low, rhythmic pulsing that seemed to vibrate directly in his skull, rather than coming through his ears. We need to leave, he said, tucking the recorder into his suit pocket. They were halfway to the airlock when the lights failed throughout the colony, plunging them into darkness. Emergency lighting activated seconds later, bathing the corridors in pulsing red. Power surge, Dominic reported, checking his scanner. Main generator just spiked to 300% capacity. That's not possible, Naomi said. These systems have fail-safes. The floor trembled beneath them. Move, Ash ordered. Back to the Hyperion. They hurried through the red-lit corridors, the vibration underfoot growing stronger with each step. As they reached the reception area near the airlock, Dominic's scanner emitted a sharp alert. Massive energy spike from those coordinates, he reported. Whatever's down there just activated. As the interior airlock cycled open, Ash saw it, the same shadow from the security footage, flowing like liquid across the floor toward them. Run! He shouted, drawing his weapon. They sprinted for the exterior airlock, shadows pursuing them, emerging from every dark corner. Ash and Dominic fired their weapons, but the energy pulses passed through the shadows without effect. The exterior airlock finally opened, and they burst onto the landing pad where the Hyperion waited, its systems already activating in response to their suit transmissions. Get us airborne, Ash ordered as they scrambled aboard. Back to the fissure coordinates. We should be getting the hell out of here, Dominic protested, already powering up the engines. Whatever's happening started there, Ash insisted. My brother found something connected to ancient Earth civilizations. We need to see it before we decide what to tell Earth. That's exactly what Torres said, Naomi pointed out. And now he and 22 others are missing. The Hyperion lifted off as red dust swirled below. Through the viewport, Ash could see dark shapes flowing across the landing pad, converging where their ship had been moments before. Energy readings at the fissure are off the charts, Dominic reported as they approached the coordinates. Something major is happening. The fissure had changed dramatically, now nearly 10 meters across, a blue light pulsing from deep within. The edges glowed with strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as Ash watched. "Set us down," he ordered, "but keep systems hot for immediate departure." "This is insane," Naomi muttered, but she was already checking her equipment. They descended on rappelling lines into the widened fissure. The smooth walls were now covered in intricate patterns that seemed to move in Ash's peripheral vision. The symbols Dr. Harper had mentioned. They did indeed resemble ancient Earth writings, a bizarre hybrid of different cultural iconographies that should never have existed together. The tunnel descended steeply for nearly 60 meters before opening into a chamber. In the center sat an object unlike anything Ash had ever seen, a roughly octahedral device about the size of a small car, its surface covered in the same shifting symbols that lined the walls. It pulsed with blue-white light, casting shadows that moved independently of any light source. "My God," whispered Naomi, her scanner held before her. "It's artificial, definitely not natural and not human technology." "Is that what my brother found?" Ash asked, approaching carefully. The device pulsed more rapidly as they drew near, the light intensifying. "It has organic components mixed with elements I can't identify," Naomi reported. "Nothing like this exists in our database." "I'm picking up a transmission," Dominic said suddenly. "Weak, but definitely there." Through their suit comms came a cacophony of human voices overlapping each other in panicked tones. Ash recognized his brother's voice among them. "Don't touch it! They're coming through! Close it before... Too late! They're already... Don't open the door!" "Those are the missing crew members," Ash said, his heart racing. "Or something mimicking them," Dominic countered, weapon raised. The device's pulsing accelerated to a steady glow. The symbols on its surface began rotating and realigning themselves in new configurations. "It's activating," Naomi warned, backing away. The ground beneath them shuddered violently. From deeper within the chamber came a sound, a low rumble that rose in pitch until it became an eerie, keening wail that no human throat could produce. "Back to the surface," Ash ordered. "Now!" They scrambled toward their rappelling lines, but Naomi suddenly froze, her head tilted as if listening. "Naomi," Ash called. "Move!" "It's singing," she said, her voice oddly tranquil. "Can't you hear it? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." The shadows in the chamber coalesced, flowing toward her like liquid darkness. She made no move to escape, seemingly entranced. "Naomi!" Dominic shouted, lunging toward her. Ash caught his arm. "We can't help her!" The shadows engulfed Naomi completely. When they receded seconds later, she was simply gone, vanished without a trace. The keening sound intensified as fissures spread across the chamber walls like lightning. "We need to go!" Ash dragged the stunned Dominic to the rappelling lines. They ascended rapidly as the tunnel collapsed below them. They emerged onto the surface as a massive tremor shook the ground, nearly throwing them back into the widening fissure. "The ship!" Ash shouted over the rumbling. They ran for the Hyperion, the ground buckling beneath their feet. All around them, the Martian surface rippled and shifted, like the skin of a massive creature awakening from hibernation. They reached the Hyperion and scrambled aboard. Through the viewport, they could see the landscape transforming. The depression where the fissure had been was now the center of a massive disturbance, spreading outward in concentric circles. "Get us out of here!" Ash ordered, strapping into the co-pilot seat. Dominic worked the controls frantically. "Engines aren't responding. Something's interfering with the ignition sequence." Ash shoved him aside and took over, fingers flying across the console. "Manual override. Hang on!" The Hyperion lurched upward, engines screaming as Ash pushed them beyond safety parameters. The ship rose unsteadily, fighting against an invisible force pulling them back toward the surface. Through the viewport, Ash witnessed a sight that would haunt him forever. the entire area around the fissure bulging upward as if something colossal was pushing against the Martian crust from below. The bulge expanded, cracks racing outward from its center, revealing glimpses of writhing darkness beneath. "We need to warn Earth," Dominic said, his voice hollow. "Whatever that is, they need to know." Ash activated the emergency transmitter, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Commander Ashton Blackwood of the Hyperion Investigation Team. Mars colony Ares 9 is compromised. The missing crew has been taken by unknown entities beneath the surface. The coordinates 17.3N 89.2W mark the location of an alien artifact of immense power. It's awakening something massive under the Martian surface. Do not send additional personnel. Repeat, do not." A shockwave hit the ship with devastating force, sending it tumbling through Mars's thin atmosphere. Alarms blared as systems failed in rapid succession. "Hull breach in the lower deck," Dominic shouted. "We're losing structural integrity." Ash fought with the controls, trying to stabilize their flight path, but the Hyperion was breaking apart around them. "The escape pod," he decided. "We can still make orbit and rendezvous with the Olympus station." They abandoned the bridge, fighting their way through buckling corridors as the ship disintegrated. The escape pod was their last hope, a compact vessel designed to sustain 2 people long enough to reach safety. As they initiated the launch sequence, Ash had one final glimpse through the viewport. The Martian surface was transforming, vast sections rising and falling like a monstrous creature taking its first breath after millennia of slumber. The escape pod ejected violently, spinning away from the disintegrating Hyperion. Ash stabilized their trajectory, aiming for the distant sanctuary of the Olympus orbital station. "Keep broadcasting the warning," he told Dominic. "Full details. They need to know everything." As the pod climbed higher, they watched in horror as a massive section of the Martian surface split open like an enormous eye-opening, revealing darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. "My God," Dominic whispered. "What is that thing?" Ash had no answer. He thought of his brother, of Naomi, of the 23 crew members of Ares 9, all gone without a trace. "Look!" Dominic pointed to the sensor display. "Something's following us. How is that possible? We're in space." On the external camera feed, Ash saw it, a tendril of darkness stretching impossibly from the Martian surface toward their tiny vessel, moving against all laws of physics. "Send the final warning," Ash ordered, voice steady despite his terror. "Tell them to quarantine Mars. Tell them." The pod shuddered as something struck its hull. The external feed showed darkness spreading across the viewport like ink in water. "It's getting in!" Dominic shouted, backing away from the wall where the darkness was seeping through solid metal. "How is it getting in?" Ash grabbed the emergency beacon, programming it with a final desperate message. "Whatever this is, it can travel through space. It's intelligent, connected to ancient Earth, not just a threat to Mars. Prepare for..." The darkness engulfed the pod's interior. Ash felt a strange sensation, not pain, but a profound disorientation, as if his very atoms were being unmade and reassembled in some impossible pattern. The last thing he heard was his brother's voice, impossibly clear. "We found the doorway, Ash. They've been waiting for us to open it, and now they're coming home." Earth Orbital Command, 2 weeks later. General Havers stood before the World Space Coalition Council, her expression grim. "The Olympus station recovered the escape pod 3 days ago," she reported. "It was empty. No sign of Commander Blackwood or Officer Reed. The pod systems were intact. No sign of malfunction or breach. They simply vanished." "And the data?" asked Counselor Yamamoto. "Corrupted beyond recovery," Havers replied. "We have only fragments of transmissions received before contact was lost." "What do we know for certain?" Counselor Mbeki demanded. "That something catastrophic happened at Ares 9, resulting in the loss of 25 personnel. That there was some kind of artifact discovered at the coordinates provided by Commander Torres, and that there appears to be significant geological activity in that region of Mars." "Your recommendation, General?" asked the Council Chair. Havers took a deep breath. "Immediate suspension of all Mars missions, a quarantine buoy network around the planet, and preparation of planetary defense systems." The Council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. "Planetary defense?" the Chair echoed. "You believe Earth is in danger?" I believe something intelligent and hostile has awakened on Mars, Havers said carefully. Something that may have had contact with ancient human civilizations. Something powerful enough to make 25 highly trained personnel vanish without a trace. Until we know more, we should prepare for the worst. The chair nodded slowly. The mission to Mars is suspended pending further investigation. This council will reconvene in 24 hours to discuss defense preparations. As the council members filed out, Havers remained at the podium, staring at the large display showing Mars, a small red dot among the stars, beautiful and now terrifying. On her tablet, a notification appeared, a message from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. Energy readings from Mars had just spiked to unprecedented levels, and something large had detached from the Martian surface, moving on a trajectory toward Earth. The quarantine had come too late. Whatever had awakened on Mars was already on its way. In the darkness of space between the two worlds, it traveled. Not a ship, not a physical object at all, but a writhing mass of sentient shadow that had waited millions of years for humanity to reach Mars and open the door it had created in the ancient past. It had whispered to early humans, guiding their development, encoding its message in monuments and symbols across Earth, waiting for them to evolve enough to build the key that would release it. And now it was coming home, to the planet it had seeded so long ago.